Hey everyone, it's Gabe and Christina from Bellwether Fields, and today we're going to be talking about what can be a sticky topic, and that is approaching minimalism and how to get your partner on board. So we're going to give you our top 5 steps to approaching your partner and trying to get them on board with the minimalist lifestyle. But first, before we get into that, please smash that like button, hit subscribe, and sign up for notifications, and that way you can get all of our videos as they come out. We come out with videos every week.
So here are our top 5 steps for introducing minimalism and trying to get your partner, spouse, significant other on board. So we did these steps. They work for if you're single or if you're already in a relationship. So the step 1 is exposure. So in the beginning of our relationship, we were just dating and I was a minimalist and Gabe was not. So the first step was just exposing Gabe to my house, the way I've arranged my stuff, the fact that I don't have a lot of stuff, and just getting him to see a different way of living. So not really talking about it too much, just showing them, whoever it is, your partner, basically the maximalist or the non-minimalist, what it looks like to live in a minimal way.
And I have to say that for me, this made a really big impression. I mean, I had a first floor apartment with like kind of not that great light. I had lots of stuff. I had closets full of stuff. I had stuff crammed into corners of the house. I mean, it was really just kind of a cluttered space. And I went over to Christina's house, and it's this wide open, airy space with lots of light. There was no clutter anywhere at all. There was actually minimal stuff placed anywhere. It was just part of the aesthetic of the house. And I was also impressed by a lot of the cleverness of the design of how she did her closet and organized that, of like the bathroom storage and stuff like that. Like, it was just impressive. It made a really big impression. And for me, it was just like the feeling of the place was so different. I mean, you know, you went in there into her house and it was just this like feel good, everything felt good in there. And then I contrast that by going back to my apartment. I'm like, ugh, this just feels terrible. Let me live with you.
You can see how this turned out. No spoilers. And then the second way would be for if you're already married or in a committed partnership and you're already living together in the same space. So exposure would be that the minimalist person basically minimalizes their items. So take your side of the closet and clean it out and make it, you know, exactly how you'd want it to live, like in a minimalist way. Take your side of the bathroom and do the same thing. Anything that's yours, usually couples have a certain division of labor. So anything that's your responsibility, you will put processes in place to minimalize it. And you're not really going to talk about it too much. You're just going to set these up so that they're minimal for you. And that way your partner gets exposure and you know, all partners, no matter what they're doing, are watching the other partner and what they're doing. So, I mean, like, they're going to see that you are cleaning stuff up or cleaning stuff out or taking stuff away. But really, this is like for the minimalists themselves to do on their own, just things that are your responsibility. For exposure at this time, like, you don't want to minimalize like your kids' stuff. You don't want to minimalize any of your spouse's stuff. You just want to focus on your stuff alone. And basically, again, like, just expose the other person to this idea that things could be more organized or in better condition, or that you just want to cherish like certain small things and not, you know, kind of closets full of space.
I've seen some research that indicates that the clutter in a house can have profound effects upon measurable stress levels. So this is probably something that your significant other or kids are going to notice. Like, it's going to feel different in the space, and hopefully it's in a positive way, and that they, you know, can kind of seize on that as like, oh, okay, this is something I can do. Okay, step 2 is be open to discussion. So in the case of where you're single, newly met, and just dating, it's going to be really obvious as they come to your space. They're going to be like, wow, you have almost no stuff, or, you know, this place is really small and you don't have a whole lot of things around. Just be ready with resources for that. Like, for us, when we first met, Christina turned me on to the Minimalists and their movie, which I believe is on Netflix, and turned me on to Marie Kondo and gave me that book to read. And all of that was really helpful. It really kind of took the spark of interest and kind of internalized it for me to make it something that I could own and hopefully do at some point. If it's your spouse and you've been together for a while, they're going to see your space. They're going to notice like, wow, your closet is so empty, or Like the kitchen, this part is really different. And just be ready for them to bring it up. Don't bring it to them. Don't try to press them with stuff, but be ready for questions. Be ready to have a good explanation and have resources at your fingertips that you can lend to your partner so that they can understand and internalize.
It's really important at this phase of the open discussion to really let the other person who is not the minimalist come to you. And so they need to ask the questions and then you need to answer them. But we want to steer clear of kind of dialogue being like, I think we should have the house this way, or the kids should do things this way, or you should do things this way. You really just want to say that, speak from the I, right? And just say, this is important to me. I feel that it's important that I live this way, or I feel that the need to be minimalist, or like, I feel like this is much more relaxing, or I feel like this is much more open. So if you come from the I, and that's really your opinion, there isn't much that your partner or spouse can really say besides like, oh, okay, like it's important to you. So just as long as you steer clear away from that, we should be doing things this way, or we as a family should be doing things this way, and really just speak from the heart and just talk about yourself. We find that that's much more effective and will resonate with the other person more deeply.
Yeah, try not to should yourself and should all over your partner.
Step 3 is setting boundaries. So this is where the minimalist springs to action. So on the third step, so if you're single, this is where you have a loving and frank discussion with the person that you're dating. If you feel like you want to take it to the next step with them and really sit them down and talk to them about minimalism as a value of yours, and that you are not prepared to take your relationship to the next step unless the other person shares this value of minimalism. And I know that this sounds like very definitive and kind of, I don't know, I think some people would think that it's almost harsh, but I think in the long run, shared values are what keeps partnerships and marriages and, committed relationships together. So we really do need to have these frank and loving conversations with the people that we are intending to spend the rest of our lives with, about what it is that we will or will not do. So we had this conversation early into our dating, where I just basically said, okay, you've been exposed to my lifestyle, we've had conversations about my lifestyle, but I want to make it clear that this is a basic tenet of my life, a pillar of my life, and I will not be moving back in a maximalist direction. So unless you are willing to get rid of all your stuff, if you want to move in, I'm not willing for us to move in. And so that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. So that was a kind of a big deal, and it was important to us for me to do this. And so what I did was I basically got rid of all my stuff. And when I say I mean really she did.
Yeah, and I think this is where like the minimalist person can help if you are willing to take up some of that workload and get that yard sale set up, or get like the Salvation Army set up to pick up things. I mean, as long as the other person's okay with that and they really need that help to minimize their stuff, then this is where you can like take a lot of action as the minimalist.
And it's really helpful because it can be really intimidating. Like the thought of like, oh God, I have to get rid of so many things just seems overwhelming when you have that many things. And so it can be very helpful for the minimalist and the relationship to actually, take some initiative and take some leadership and to try to really help with that. So for us, like that involved us taking the Marie Kondo method and applying it to everything that I had in my apartment, step by step, from clothes to books to kitchen stuff to all the steps. And then she helped me with an estate sale, and then helped me get rid of all the rest and donate all the rest. And that was that. And it was a huge shift for me. As I watched 100 trash bags worth of stuff leave my 1-bedroom apartment, of just stuff, clothes to donate, of trash to get rid of, it was really eye-opening, and it made a big impression on me. I mean, I was keeping stuff for God knows why, because I may need it someday, or for no reason at all, really. And it's something that has stayed with me. Like, to this day, I still don't need any of that stuff. I mean, maybe there's been like 1 or 2 things that are like $20 and I just go out and buy those again. That's not a big deal. But I mean, almost all of it, I just don't miss.
Yeah, and so that is if you're single. And if you're already in a committed relationship and you you share a home already, then you want to set boundaries, again, talking about yourself. So in step 2, we said like use I statements. And so in step 3, you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to set boundaries with regards to people giving you gifts or the things that you want to buy. So you would sit down and have a loving and frank conversation with your partner and just say things like, I don't feel like I want to consume any more things. I don't want to receive gifts that are objects, so I would rather receive things that are like consumables, like maybe like a nice night out at a restaurant or an experience of some kind that you guys can share together, or things that like you can use up, like maybe bath and beauty products, like not things that are physical objects that you're going to have to maintain and sustain. So there's the boundary right there for you. It's just that, gifts need to be limited in this way, and that you yourself, you're just giving them the heads up that like you will not be buying objects to like bring into the home anymore, unless they really spark joy. And so I think there's always this conversation, and honestly, like I've had this conversation because it's not just your spouse that you talk to about being a minimalist, but also just your family. And so I've had this type of conversation with my family, and some of the reaction has been like, well, it's a gift, and like I can just give you whatever I want. And that is true. And so the boundary there would be that, it's a gift and you can give me whatever you want. But once you give it to me, it becomes mine, and then whatever I do with it is up to me. So please don't give me things that you're going to be disappointed if I donate or give to a friend or trade for something else that I would really like. So there is always, I think, a lot of hangups with gifts when it comes to minimalism. But again, just speaking from the I and just saying, this is what I would like to do. And again, avoiding those we statements that we shouldn't bring things into the house or we shouldn't give gifts unless they're this way. You just want to talk about just yourself.
Step 4, let the journey grow organically. So for us, this started like in a 500 square foot house, and me adapting to that and us adapting to that together. And that was great. And then it grew into, well, let's move into a smaller place. And we went to 260 square feet. And there were some growing pains there. I mean, we definitely had to like figure out how that worked, what to get rid of, how to go through all of our stuff again and just try to purge and be efficient. And that was a good experience because we got to become more solid in our methods, and I got to learn some new things that just weren't there the first time that I went through it. And then we did it again. We moved into a 186 square foot apartment. And that was intimidating. And even going from 260 to 186, it was like, oh, we have to get rid of more stuff. And we had to go through everything again and do it all again. And it's just like practice. And you definitely grow as you do it.
And these are just personal challenges that we have taken on, and it's been part of our organic journey, just growing together. I don't think so when I moved into 500 square feet, I didn't think that I would ever be in anything smaller than 500 square feet. I had downsized from over 2,000 square feet, so that was a lot. And I was like, this is good. 500 is good. And then Gabe joined, and I was like, oh, wow, now I live in 500 square feet with like 2 people. And that seems, like a challenge, and that's really good. But eventually we just ended up getting there, and it wasn't like, okay, our next goal is like 260 square feet. We just needed to move into a different apartment, and that apartment just happened to be smaller. And we're like, I wonder if we can do this. And then we did. And then the same thing, we needed to move to another apartment, and we wanted to save on rent. And that apartment was even smaller, obviously, because cheap rent would be smaller space. So like we took on those challenges, and it wasn't, we weren't really seeking them out. We just decided that, this was the right path for us, and then we were able to take them on. And so we know that 186 square feet is too small for us, just as 2 people. And that's okay. And we've lived there for over 2 years, and, we're on year number 3, and we might live there for 1 more year. But it's not forever. And, we've adapted to that space, and we live there fine and perfectly happily. In this cabin space that we're in right now, this one is 800 square feet, but it actually used to be slightly bigger. And so when we were working on it, we made it slightly smaller because we knew that it would be more efficient and work better for us. And so the kitchen space got a little bit smaller, but it's still going to be the largest kitchen we've ever had. And it's going to be, full of storage and massive compared to the amount of stuff we have. So I wouldn't arbitrarily make this cabin even tinier just because I live in a tiny space now. So it just changes organically over time, depending on kind of like what your journey is like. So that's really how we did it. If you are currently in a committed relationship, growing organically would mean, again, so you've exposed your partner because you've done your own stuff, you are being open to having a dialogue and discussion, talking really about yourself. You've set some boundaries about yourself with regards to the stuff that you're going to buy or the things that you want to bring into the house. And the fourth is really just letting that seed germinate and grow over time. And, eventually, I think that this really leads to your partner seeing things in a new way and really embracing some of these ideas. I mean, this is a person that you've chosen to spend your life with. They want what you want. They feel like things that are important to you are important to them. So over time, I think that you will start moving in a more minimalist direction. And I have seen that successfully with several couples, all of different ages. And I think that one person might always be a little bit more maximalist than the other, but you can move kind of together in your journey as a couple towards a more minimalist lifestyle. And I think that really what derails people in the beginning to try to get their partner on board is, again, saying too much we. Too many we statements, and it really should be more I statements about like what it is important to you as like one half of the partnership. And 50% is a lot of the partnership. So if 50% of the partnership wants to go a certain way, like that's a big stake. And I think that the other person really will want to work with you, and again, like over time. Okay, so the last step is maintaining consistency. Step 5, maintaining consistency. So as you go along in this journey, sometimes it feels like it's going really slowly. So the other person really isn't seeing your side, or doesn't really understand, or doesn't really immediately get on board. And for our people, this can be different. It could be, 2 weeks is taking too long. 2 years can be too long. So it just depends on your relationship. And really, it's important for the person who is minimal and who wants to maintain that minimal lifestyle to just maintain consistency. So keep up your end of it. Make sure that all of your stuff is minimal and that you're still practicing those things. Really have more resources available in case you guys have more discussion, but just maintaining your side of it and not going back on what you said about like what you feel are your boundaries is really, really important. I think some people get tired or feel like things are never going to change, and what's the point of me doing it if they're not doing it? And really, it's important that you do it because it's important to you. So it doesn't matter if the other person ever comes along and does that part of the journey. If you're doing it and it's important to you, then that's enough. And so just keep at it and keep doing it. And like I said, I think the other person, they're committed to you and to the long haul, and they will eventually come down that same path with you, whether or not it's, to the level that you are, or a slightly lesser level, which I think is fine.
And regardless of the commitment level that they have, there's bound to be some kind of relapses or mistakes, or there's a lot of habit involved in this, so a lot of habitual behavior. So just be easy, try not to should people too much, and just try to be understanding. Sometimes don't say anything at all. I mean, with us,
we have a really good example of this.
Last year, I became kind of fascinated with the idea of getting rid of couches and furniture in our apartment.
He was very anti-furniture.
And, it's just part of sitting and health, and that's a whole nother subject. But I was really excited about it. So I went on Amazon and was like, oh, look, you can get these like meditation cushions. These would be perfect. We can get rid of our stuff and let's do it now. So I just ordered 2 meditation cushions without talking to her. And, they show up at the house, and it's kind of like, well, I hadn't thought about not being able to move the furniture from our apartment yet into this house because it wasn't ready for it. Mm-hmm. And it was I just had given us more things to store in our tiny, tiny apartment. And
186 square feet. 186 square feet.
And Christina rolled with it. They were out for a little bit on the floor, but we didn't really have any space to use them. And she just kind of quietly found a place for them, tucked them under the bed, and just left it alone. And I mean,
it was over a year that they were stored. over a year.
But also, like, but you didn't say anything. You didn't admonish me. You didn't say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done this." Or
No.
I came to that conclusion on my own as I'm realizing, like, oh God, yeah, we weren't ready for that really, and now we have these things to store. And it was just something that, was a lesson that I was able to learn. It wasn't a lesson that she had to give me.
Yeah, and I think that when you're in 186 square feet, those lessons are very easy to learn because like there's no space. But yeah, there really is no point on the minimalist side of really, chastising your partner. Well, I mean, in general, I think there's very little point in chastising your partner. I mean, like you're in a partnership together, people make certain decisions, like maybe those are the best decisions possible. Maybe it's like a misstep of some kind. But a year later, as you guys might know, watching our other videos, like the couch in question is right here, like we're sitting on it in the cabin. So that eventually did happen, and the floor cushions are being used. We are without a couch in the apartment, and now we use the floor cushions. And guess who's just not as excited about the floor cushions anymore?
I'm getting back to it. I'm good. It was an adjustment for me at first, and I also have a little bit of back pain with something else, and it was just kind of awkward. But getting used to it, and I think we're settling into it pretty nicely.
Yeah, I actually really like them. As a person who like didn't buy them or didn't read any of that research about how good they are for you, I just enjoy them. I think they're like really fun. It feels like you're just camping out. I don't know. It reminds me of like being a kid and like having a fort or something. So. And that's just kind of the way like things can turn out. And so when we're saying that just maintain consistency and like move forward organically together, that's how like these, situations can kind of resolve the themselves. But that took over a year of resolution. So, the cushions were ordered, they had to be stored away. Gabe was like, oh, that was probably not the best idea. And then a year later, like they were brought back out, and like now we use them and get like use out of them.
Maybe the good mindset to have is to approach your partner as if you think that they want to help you with this.
That's a good idea.
I think that actually that was actually very helpful, because obviously I did, and I realized my mistake, and it was like I had space to express the mistake without feeling like I'd done something bad.
Yeah, I mean, like, and there's nothing really bad. I think like that is another thing. It's like if you bring things into the house. We were watching like a really interesting documentary the other day about a woman who lives in like 100 square feet, and she still feels that she brings too many things into her home, and she lives very minimally and very like off the grid and very organically, and she still feels that she collects too many things. And I think that this is just human nature. Humans are naturally acquisitive, animals. We like to look at beautiful things, collect beautiful things, have things. And I think that it's just natural that we would, bring stuff into the home, and then we would need to, again, look at those things and pare down in order to keep our spaces like open and relaxed and beautiful.
So what do you guys think? Do you have situations where you're trying to be more minimalist and your partner isn't quite on board yet? What kind of experiences have you had with this? Like, what's worked for you, what's not? Let us know in the comments, because that can be very informative for everybody.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you guys. We do love to hear from you guys. You guys are great at commenting, and we just love having these dialogues. And I think that the comments, again, like Gabe said, are really helpful. Other people read them and absorb them and like them. So I really feel like it's a great space just to have these type of discussions.
All right, so those are our 5 steps for getting your partner on board with minimalism. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.